Section 9.3, solving systems by elimination. It just keeps getting better and better. You know I love this. Okay, so here's the deal. Of course, in math, I always show you the longest, most difficult way first, and then I work my way to the shortcut. That's the way it works, because if I showed you the shortcut first, you'd never do the long way. So here we go. With elimination, you're going to look at the steps and you're going to say, whoa, how is this easier? But when I show you how to do it, then you'll see there's a lot less actual writing in the problem. So here's the steps when you're solving by elimination. Step 1, multiply one or both equations so that one term is the same with different signs. So here's what we're going to do, and usually the first one is the easiest. So if we look at these, we can look, and you're going to look at your x terms. This one is x, and this one is 2x. With your y terms, this one is y, and this one is negative y. So we can see that step 1 actually in this case is already done. You've got a positive y and a negative y. The terms are exactly the same except for opposite signs. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2, add the equations together. One term should drop out. So the whole point for step 1 is to make it so that when you add them together, one of the terms is going to totally drop out. So if you add these two together, then you're going to add the x's, and so you get 3x. Y minus y totally drops out, which is what it should do. And 5 plus 7, is what? 13? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Ha ha ha. So 3x equals 12. Step 3, solve for the remaining variable, which takes longer to write it than to actually do it. In this case, divide by 3. So x equals 4. And then put the value into the original, back into either of the original equations. It doesn't even matter. Let's put it back into the first one. So x is 4. So 4 plus y equals 5. And then the next step is going to be solve for the second variable. So subtract 4 on both sides. So y equals 1. Ta-da! Done. Don't forget to write your answer as a point. So x is 4, y is 1, 4, 1 is your solution. Done. All right? Now, the hardest step is the step I didn't show you. So let's do another one that does that first step. All right. So what we're going to do in this case is we're going to look and see, well, the x's are x and 2x. The y's are y and negative 5y. Now, we can either multiply this x by a negative 2 to make these drop out, or we can multiply this by 5, and this is already negative. You can do either one and both will work. So if you want to do the x, you do the x while I do the y. Because I tend to like to, anytime I don't have to multiply by a negative, I like to leave the negatives alone just because that's one more possibility of a little error here and there. Negatives will mess with you, okay? So that's if you want to do it that way, why don't you do multiply by negative 2 and see if we get the same answer. All right, then we should. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this equation and I'm going to multiply by 5. Whoops, that looks like an X. We'll say multiply by 5. All right, and by doing that, make sure you've got them. Oh, now it looks like a 0.5. I tell you what, I just can't win, can I? So you've got to make sure to multiply every part of the equation or it doesn't work. All right, so times 5. There we go. We'll do it like that. So every part has to be multiplied by 5. So we've got 5 times x is 5x. We've got 5 times y is 5y. And we've got 5 times 6 is 30. And now you see I kept my symbols where they were. If you're multiplying by a positive number, you just keep all the same symbols in there and just move it over. All right, and now this one we're not going to change at all, so let's just line it up. 2x minus 5y equals negative 16, and that's my first step. All right, so just multiply by something so that now we have 5y and negative 5y, so that when we do step 2 and add these two together, now the y's will totally drop out. So 5 plus 2 is 7x equals, 30, is that 14? 10, 20, 30, yes. Now solve for x, divide by 7. X equals 2. And now put that x into either one of these equations. It really doesn't matter. Both of them are going to come up with a solution. So I would do the first one simply because there's less coefficients, so it's probably easier. So x is 2 plus y equals 6. Subtract 2. So y equals 4. So now my x is 2 and my y is 4. So my solution is 2, 4. All right. Let's do another one. Move on. See if you can do this one. In this case, because the x's are both positive and the y's are both negative, we have to multiply by a negative. All right. There's no way to get around it. So in this case, let's make the y's drop out and just multiply by a -1. So when I multiply by a negative, if you're not going to multiply by a coefficient, or if the coefficient is just -1, what you can do is just take your original equation and just go through and change every sign, and that multiplies by -1. Make sure you change every sign though. So this becomes a negative, this becomes positive, this becomes negative. And then you're done. You don't have to rewrite it like that. So now step 2 is to add them together. -2x plus 2x, oop, that drops out. Y minus y, that drops out. So we've got 0 on this side equals -1 and -3 is -4. You've seen this type of thing before, huh? And you know what's coming. 0 equals -4 is not a true statement. And so therefore, there is nothing we can put in for x and y to make this a true statement, to make this work for this system of equations. So this is one of those where there is no solution. It's a set of parallel lines. No solution. All right. Okay, same thing here. Here we go. Step 1 is to multiply. Let's multiply this y because you've got a y and a 4y. And you know what? I've done the y every time, so I'm going to change it up. Let's do the x to show you that, yeah, you can do the x too. So to get from 2 to 8, 2 times 4 is 8. So let's multiply by 4. But they're both positive. So we're going to have to, and they're both positive here, so it doesn't matter which one. So this one, let's multiply by a -4. So multiply by -4. Oh, that looks like x minus 4. Multiply by a -4. So -4 times 2 is -8x. -4 times y is -4y equals -4 times 2. Negative times a negative is a positive, +8. And then bring this one over just the way it is. 8x plus 4y equals -8. And just add them together and you can see what's coming, I think, huh? -8x plus 8x, or plus 8x is 0. -4y plus 4y is also 0. And 8 minus 8 is 0. And 0 does equal 0. So in this case, because we've got a true statement that will always be true, there is no way to make this not a true statement. We can put in anything you want for these x's and y's, and you're still going to get 0 equals 0. All right? So in this case, what we've got is infinite solutions. This is exactly the same line. We've just multiplied this one by 4 to get there. All right? So, if you've got the steps in your notes, it looks long and cumbersome, but as long as you remember to multiply every part of every part in order to get one of the terms, the same number, the same coefficient, but opposite signs, so that when you add the two equations together, one of those drops out. That's the key to solving by elimination. So if you can get to where you're making sure that you're multiplying every part of one of those equations by the same thing, then your solutions are all going to be correct. And I'll see you next time.